This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
A smoke alarm has saved the lives of a Corolla father and son after their home erupted into flames overnight. The fire broke out around 4:30 this morning, causing an estimated $400,000 damage.
Still smouldering hours after this Corolla Road property went up in flames. The homeowner devastated, watching on as fire investigators sorted through the rubble, trying to work out what happened.
The firefighters were met with thick black smoke and flames coming from the building when they arrived, and gaining access was a bit of a hassle because it's such a fair distance from the main road up to the house.
It took crews around 20 minutes to control the early morning blaze. Police also on scene today. The fire has been deemed accidental, caused by materials placed too close to a wood heater. A father, son and the family's pet cat were inside at the time. All made it out. The son was woken by a smoke alarm before then going to wake his dad. Firefighters say that working smoke alarm is what saved the duo's lives.
If they hadn't had the working smoke alarm, it might have been a different story today. We might have been looking for people inside. So, as I said, it's a tiny reminder for everybody to make sure their smoke alarms are working because they do save lives.
The fire service also reminding Tasmanians to keep flammable items a minimum of 2 metres from any heating source. A home lost, but the family thankful to still be alive. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Police have charged a 51-year-old Austins Ferry man after a shed fire on Monday allegedly revealed a hydroponic system that was being used to grow cannabis. The man was charged with 1 count of trafficking a controlled substance, 1 count each of cultivating and possessing a controlled plant, and 1 count of possessing a firearm without a licence. He's been bailed to appear in the Hobart Magistrates Court in June. The Chief Executive of TasTAFE has resigned following an investigation by the anti-corruption watchdog into allegations of serious misconduct. Stephen Conway is accused of giving favourable treatment to his deputy while also granting further financial and career-advancing benefits.
The damning report was tabled in Parliament, an investigation by the State's Integrity Commission into allegations of misconduct by the head of TasTAFE and his deputy.
The government is taking the matter very seriously.
The report highlights evidence of favourable treatment by Stephen Conway in recruiting his deputy Laurie Hocking, a friend and former colleague from Adelaide. Findings by the Commission including Miss Hocking's ability to quickly advance her career as a direct result of Mr Conway, boosting her salary by more than $86,000. The CEO allowing the payment of airfares and rent for Miss Hocking, with a $6,000 bonus on her appointment anniversary. The Commission also finding together a consulting contract was awarded without testing the market.
While these matters are serious, there has been no suggestion by the Integrity Commission that the matters are of a criminal nature.
Questions now surrounding the timeline of events, with the complaint first raised more than a year ago.
What we need to ask is when the Minister became aware of this and what he did, because the misspending of taxpayers' money seems to have been raised about a year ago, and of course the Integrity Commission's report notes that in its findings.
If this could happen once, it could happen again. We need to make sure that all public monies are spent in the public interest.
The government has launched an independent audit of the state services recruitment process, while an interim CEO has been appointed. Attempts were made to contact Mr Conway, while TasTAFE declined to comment. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania will be the second state in the country to allow medicinal cannabis to be used in treating severe epilepsy. The Health Minister announcing more than $3.5 million to provide specialised staff to administer the medication. A clinical assessment will be made to determine which patients are eligible for the unregistered products.
It's really important that we look at that.
Our first focus under the Controlled Access Scheme is young children and young Tasmanians with drug-resistant epilepsy. We don't at the moment know how many people are likely to be prescribed with a medical cannabis product, but we want it to be those who need it.
We're really concerned that it's too narrow at this stage. The Premier last year announced that that medicinal cannabis would be available for a broad range of conditions.
The Controlled Access Scheme will be made available on September 1. A review of Susan Neal-Fraser's 2010 conviction for killing her husband, Bob Chappell, is one step closer, following a hearing at the Supreme Court in Hobart today. After several hours behind closed doors, lawyers for both sides agreed the matter is ready to progress and have settled on a list of witnesses.
Hearing the names of the people that are going to be called before the court has given everybody some hope that we may actually be able to, achieve justice in this case and get to the bottom of what actually happened to Bob.
The hearing is scheduled to commence before Justice Michael Brett on July 25. Launceston Alderman Rob Soward will continue his role as acting mayor despite being charged with an harassment offence. It's alleged the 48-year-old used a carriage service to harass another person. The matter will be prosecuted by the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions, and he's been summoned to appear in court on July 10. Mr Soward will continue as acting mayor until Mayor Albert Van Zetten returns from overseas next week. An exclusive look now at today's historical handover of artefacts between Aboriginal Tasmanians and the Federal Group. The items will be displayed at the new Mach 1 Storytelling Hotel and tell the history of some of the state's Indigenous culture.
This piece of paradise was the setting for today's historical handover of artefacts between Tasmanian Aboriginals and the Federal Group. All items made by hand and with local materials.
Made tanned some Forester kangaroo skins. I've made some kelp baskets, the water carriers, some stringy bark rope and some river reed rope as well, yeah.
They were the things that we used for everyday life, I suppose, for music or for gathering or for hunting.
Guests at today's ceremony were treated to traditional bush treats during a tour on sacred land.
It's the seeds that Dad's just picked. We can eat them when they're green.
The items will be displayed in the new Mach 1 Storytelling Hotel on Hobart's waterfront, allowing guests to understand an important part of Tasmania's living culture. Both parties wanting to tell the stories over the last 60,000 years and convey that Indigenous culture is still very much alive and that Truganini wasn't the last surviving Tasmanian Aboriginal.
I think this will allow Tasmanian tourists to have greater insight into the unique characteristics of what makes Tasmanians and Tasmania such a special place in the world.
Mach 1 will have 114 rooms with themes based on Tasmanian character traits. The artefacts handed over today will tell the modern story of the Tasmanian Aboriginal culture.
We're exchanging knowledge, we're exchanging cultural understanding, and we're bringing people closer together.
The hotel will officially open at the start of June. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Huon Aquaculture has today written to the Environmental Protection Authority with concerns over proposed biomass limits and trials for a waste management system in Macquarie Harbour. Frances Bender says she is extremely worried that the draft limit of 12,000 tonnes or 18 with a waste management system is too high and will affect her company's business in the harbour.
Harbour is still in quite a parlous state, and so we need to act in a conservative way. So playing Russian roulette like the EPA director is doing now, it is just breathtaking in its stupidity.
Huon Aquaculture has asked the EPA board to review its final decision, which is set to be handed down on the 1st of June. A baby is in a serious but stable condition in the Royal Hobart Hospital after being diagnosed with meningococcal disease. The infant was taken to the Northwest Regional Hospital on the weekend before being transferred. Public Health Services are speaking to those who have been in contact with the baby. This is the 6th case of meningococcal in Tasmania this year. Symptoms include fever, vomiting, severe muscle pains and a rash. Anyone with meningococcal symptoms should seek medical attention. In an Australian first, a new bike-friendly accreditation scheme is being launched in Tasmania. Businesses offering a high level of knowledge and infrastructure for cyclists will be eligible for the new tick of approval.
Vertigo MTB has made a big name for itself since opening 12 months ago, claiming to be a go-to company for transport and bike hire at the Blue Derby trails. Now it's become the first bike-friendly business in the state.
It's really become hot in the mountain bike market. Blue Derby's really, really hot. There's a lot of hype about it.
The purpose of the new program is to help tourists spot places which cater to their needs, turning the current influx into something sustainable down the track.
Basically, the businesses have considered the practical things that this market needs.
The tourism body is expecting a lot of interest in the new accreditation, especially as another downhill development is due to start soon at Maydena.
We've got world-class trails, we've got this burgeoning reputation for world-class cycling. We want our businesses to match that standard, and that's essentially the challenge we put out to them.
Although there are similar accreditations overseas, this is a first for Australia.
Even this week, and we're heading into the winter months now, we've still got interstate riders in Derby. A lot of inquiry already we're working on for the next, let's call it the next summer season.
The state government is committing $15,000 for the initiative. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The Tasmanian Shooters and Fishers Party has condemned the fatal shooting of a wedge-tailed eagle, labelling it as a senseless criminal act. The young bird was taken to Raptor and Wildlife Refuge of Tasmania in Kettering late last week after being shot near Orford. It died on Saturday. The Parks and Wildlife Service is investigating, and a $12,000 reward is being offered by Raptor Refuge for information leading to a conviction. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Falls by the banks and miners have offset gains from healthcare, retail and energy companies to drag the share market lower. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 11 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 74.92 US cents and 66.69 euro cents. Michael Hussey's report into the health of Tasmanian cricket has laid bare the deficiencies in the state program and what it will take to return to the top. Cricket Tasmania says it will look to implement all of the 33 recommendations, but some may be delayed due to a lack of funding.
The man they dubbed Mr. Cricket has interviewed more than 50 people since tackling the Tasmanian Tigers' performance crisis in March.
We haven't been performing to expectation. We've come off the back of an outstanding era where we've punched above our weight, and now we're in an era where we are, as the ladder would show, if not on the bottom, then down near the bottom.
Among Hussey's findings presented to the board last night, the need to better foster local talent from the under-13s upwards, improving facilities in the north and northwest and developing a second top-tier facility away from Blunston Arena, although the CEO admits funding is a major stumbling block. When it comes to recruiting from interstate, there's an acknowledgement Tasmania is struggling to attract and retain quality players trying to break into the domestic and national spotlight.
Systems that worked really well for us in the early 2000s, into the early teens, perhaps in the modern world of cricket over the last 3 to 4 years haven't been as effective.
Cricket Tasmania says it will now look to other sporting codes to turn its fortunes around under new Tigers coach Adam Griffith.
And we need to look at like-minded clubs such as the Sydney Swans, who don't have a lot of players from Sydney in their list of 40 or so. They've got to look at how do they get the best talent and how do they keep them there.
Further announcements on player contracts and coaching positions are expected in coming weeks. Andrew McCarthy, Southern Cross News.
AFL Tasmania is hoping the appointment of a state talent manager will see more young footballers drafted over the next few seasons. Jai Bond is taking on the job after spending time on Richmond's AFL list before moving to the Miami Dolphins and New York Giants NFL teams. And while he only started in the job today, Bond was on hand in Adelaide last weekend to see the Mariners' big win over South Australia.
At a good time, and we've got some great talent. From what I saw on the weekend and some reports, we've got some great draftable talent. Coupled that with the females. Female football, I think it's a great opportunity for me.
AFL Tasmania CEO Rob Auld says regional talent managers Adam Sanders and Matthew Armstrong will be retained under the new structure.
Good evening. A rain band crossed the state today, producing cloudy conditions and a little rainfall. Hobart reached a top of 18. It was 16 in Launceston and Devonport and 17 degrees in Burnie. 20 was the state's high at Flinders Island. It was 19 degrees at St Helens and Grove, 16 at Strawn and Maria Island, 15 degrees at Bushy Park and 9 at Lyowini. Here we can see a frontal cloud band moving over Victoria, New South Wales and Tasmania. A large mass of speckled cloud lies to the west of this band, bringing shower activity to the southwest of the mainland. Patchy cloud can be seen over parts of Queensland's east coast due to onshore winds. Over Tasmania, extensive cloud associated with that rain band. Tomorrow, the chart shows another cold front crossing Tasmania with a prefrontal trough extending over New South Wales and Queensland. To the coastal waters, northwesterly winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching 30 knots at times in the west, north and south. Seas to 3 metres. And there's a strong wind warning for all coastal waters except in the east between St Helens and Tasman Island. Partly cloudy in Hobart tomorrow, 15 degrees. A shower or two for Geeveston, 14, Bothwell 13. Morning showers in the north, Launceston, Devonport and Cressy all looking at a top of 15. Burnie, morning showers 15, Strawn 13, Curry 15. St Helens, partly cloudy, 17 degrees, 16 for Swansea and Orford. Taking a look ahead to Thursday, showers about the north and west extending statewide in the afternoon and evening before contracting to the north and far south later in the night. Friday, showers about the west, far south and the Bass Strait Islands, mostly clearing in the evening, fine elsewhere. And rain developing about the north and west on Saturday, extending statewide in the evening. Now let's take a look around the country tomorrow. Cloud clearing in Brisbane, 27, Sydney a morning shower or two, 23, and a possible shower expected for Melbourne, 17 degrees.
Thanks so much for that, Brit. And that's all from the news team for now. Thanks for joining us. Have a lovely evening. Good night.